Today, we're going to go through step by step how you can build an always up-to-date customer support AI chatbot. Now, before we go into how we actually build this, we need to cover why we would even build something like this. Now, with most businesses, customer support is a hugely time-consuming activity, but at the same time, it's very, very important to ensure that your customers are happy, they achieve success, and they retain for the long run. Now, not every customer support activity can be automated. There are some pieces of customer support that are very unique, and that sort of stuff still needs to be dealt with by a human. But the reality of it is that a lot of it is quite repetitive. There's a lot of repetitive questions, and oftentimes you just get questions that are in the docs, but people don't read the docs because they don't like to read. So then you get these emails or these chats, and you're sort of just doing things that are quite repetitive, and you should probably spend your time better. Now, the other downside of other types of AI customer support chatbots is most of the time your chatbot does not automatically stay up to date as your documentation changes. What I've found from talking to a lot of people is they will often build an AI chatbot and then find that that's a whole nother system that they need to maintain because they need to update the knowledge base from time to time because their docs are always changing, right? Like depending on if you're running a software business or anything else, you're probably changing your documentation or your product knowledge base as you go. But because your chatbot is not directly reading that every time, you have to update the knowledge base that the chatbot refers to. So this is sort of coming into the architecture discussion, right? Like with most chatbots these days, they go with this sort of approach here, which is you have this chatbot or this agent that the user interacts with, and the chatbot or the agent interacts with a knowledge base or a vector store. Now, there's a lot of positives with this, but there's also a lot of negatives, right? So the positive with this is obviously now the large language model or the AI can refer to your knowledge before it answers, which is good. And it's good because vector stores do semantic search. So it's not a keyword search. So even if the person asking the question asks it in a weird way, the AI agent or the AI chatbot should be able to find the relevant information in your knowledge base. The downside to this is because this is a separate knowledge base to where you host your docs and all that sort of stuff, you have to maintain this, right? And oftentimes, what I see people do is they might refresh it once a week, but that in itself is a very painful task. And it also means that because you're not updating it immediately, there are chances that your knowledge base will be out of date. The other thing is because it's another source of truth, you have to delete old knowledge, right? And that's a whole thing. It's basically, it all boils down to you just need to maintain a separate system. So it's quite painful. And then depending on what tool you're using, there's also a lot of complexity, right? So which is with a knowledge base or a vector store, how are you chunking your documents, right? How are you searching them? How are you doing all of that stuff? And new embedding models are coming out all the time, all that sort of stuff. So there are downsides to this. Now, before we go through the structure that we're going to use today, I want to say that there are still use cases where this is the preferred approach, right? So for example, if your documentation is not changing very often, let's say you only change it once a month, then this approach makes sense, right? If you're doing a customer support agent that's based on a PDF policy or something like that, and that PDF policy changes once a year, once every 2 years, then this is fine. Just use it, right? You really just want to make sure you're using the right tool for the job. So if your source document or the knowledge base information doesn't change very often, just stick with this. That being said, what we're going to do today is go with this more simple architecture, but arguably it is a more powerful architecture and also easier to maintain. So instead of having our customer support AI chatbot or AI agent pull directly from a knowledge base that we have to maintain, we just get the AI agent to browse our website every time the customer has a question. So literally we just get it to browse our documentation website. So our documentation website is always going to be up to date because that's the source of truth for our documentation. So we're already keeping that up to date. So we're just going to give our AI agent access to that website and just respond based on that. So there are a few disadvantages here, right? So because it's browsing the website rather than searching a knowledge base, it will be slightly slower, only a few seconds slower and slightly more expensive. But most cases, it's not a big deal because if you're comparing it to a human customer support agent, it's still way faster than a human, right? Because humans, first of all, humans are not going to be at the desk 24/7. So they're not going to respond that quickly. This is still an AI support agent. You just add a couple more seconds because the AI agent has to go sort of visit the website and sort of find the relevant information. Now, the other downside, or you can argue that this is an advantage, is for the AI agent to be able to find the relevant information, you need to make sure that your documentation website is easily navigatable. Now, I actually say that this is a positive because if your docs are not easily navigatable, then you're already getting a lot more questions than you should because your customers can't find what they're looking for. So really, this is just two birds with one stone. You should be making your docs easy to navigate. Cool. So with that out of the way, let's get into actually building this, right? So today we're going to use the Dumpling AI Agents Builder to build our customer support chatbot. And in terms of what product documentation we're going to use, we're just going to use the Dumpling AI product docs. So this is our API reference for the Dumpling AI API. So we're just going to make a bot on this because I do get questions quite a bit on, like, for example, how much each of our endpoints cost, how to use certain endpoints, that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to do it on this. And the pain points I talked about earlier with keeping this knowledge base up to date is something that I've faced in the past. So I'm going to implement it with this live retrieval. So let's get straight into it. So we're going to build the agent and then we're going to embed it somewhere, but let's build the agent first. So we're going to say create from scratch, and then we're going to give our agent a name. So this is very similar to the ChatGPT custom GPT builder, but it's a lot more powerful in the number of tools that we have built in. So I'm going to say customer support chatbot. So a helpful bot that can answer questions about Dumpling AI API. Cool. So with the instructions, you can sort of do this yourself from scratch if you know how to write very good prompts. If you have no idea where to start, or even if you do know where to start, I often like to start with getting the AI to write a prompt for me, and then I just tweak it. So I'm going to say I want you answer user questions about the Dumpling API. You must always refer first before answering user queries. The docs can be found at, and we're just going to copy over, I guess, this page. And then I'm going to say, if the user question is unclear, feel free to ask follow-up questions, right? And we're just going to generate this. So generally this generated prompt is a good first draft, but you will likely need to tweak this if you know what you want and you're, I guess, a good agent prompt engineer. So let's have a read. Answer user questions, referencing the documentation. That's good. Yes, that's good. So analyze their question, consult the docs, formulate a response, handle ambiguity. This is all quite good. Yes, this is good. It's all pretty good. Actually, I may not need to change this at all. Okay, let's just try this for now. So we've done all that. The bot has all the instructions. We now need to give the bot the ability to actually browse the website. We're just going to add a tool called scrape URL. So basically the bot can read what's at each URL. Now you'll see in Dumpling AI, we also do have the search knowledge base feature. And as I said before, it really depends on what you're building. You just need to pick the right tool for the job. So in this case, because the Dumpling AI documentation is always changing because we're always releasing new features, like literally every week we ship 2 new features. It's very hard to keep the knowledge base up to date. So we're just going to use a scrape URL tool. Cool. So we've added that. Now let's do a test question, right? So let's say we're interested in how much the generate image endpoint costs, right? So I'll just come here and I'll ask, how much does it cost to generate images, right? And the agent will scrape the page. We'll find that it's not on the introduction page. So then it went to the credit costs page, which is good. So you can see here it went to credit costs and then it found the information. And then here it's responded with the answers. And it's also linked me back to the docs here. I should actually have added that to the prompt. So that's a good reminder. I should add that to the prompt, but it's good that the AI agent was able to do that without me telling it. So that's good. And then here, like if it's docs, I have to sort of read it and navigate it, but users often want more guidance, right? So now I know the costs. So I'm like, okay, that's good. How do I actually use it, right? So then hopefully the AI chatbot will then go to the actual documentation for the generate image endpoint, which is what it's done here. And then it will pull out that information and then summarize it in a way for the user to follow, which is exactly what it's done here, which is perfect. So you've come back here, it's gone into the generate image page and it's just read the docs and then responded to the user question. It's really good. So based on what we've done so far, it's been a few minutes and we've built a really powerful customer support chatbot that can respond to user questions. Now, with what we have so far, this is already useful, right? You can just share this with your team, but oftentimes you sort of want it to be in a more shareable format, right? In this format, it's sort of still in preview and you can still edit it here. So what we can do here is we have a share option in Dumpling AI. So you can share it with anyone with the link. So just to show you what this would look like, if I open it in a new tab, this is what the AI agent looks like. So it looks very nice and clean, and you can ask questions here and the AI agent will do basically exactly what it was doing before here. Now you can just share this link with your team if that's what you want. But oftentimes we have clients that want to share this with their customers, right? And depending on what website builder you're using, the steps will be slightly different, but high level, it will be mostly the same. So if you want to embed it somewhere, let's say I run a community and I have all of my docs in Notion and I want my community members to be able to ask my chatbot questions, but all of my stuff is in Notion. So I just want the chatbot to be inside Notion. So I've created a test page here, right? Which is where I'm going to put the AI agent. So what I want to do is come back to here. You'll see that there is a embed code snippet. So depending on the site builder you're using, you either need to copy the embed code or just the share link. So Notion, they actually generate embedding code for you. So you just need the share link here. And then what you need to do is just come into Notion, do /embed link, and then we're just going to put in this embed link, embed it, and we can resize this to make it the size that we want. And now with Notion, you can obviously publish your page. So we're going to publish this page as well. And I'm going to copy this page, or if I just press view site, we now have this Notion page live on the internet with our chatbot embedded. Now you can share this page with all your customers or link to it easily if you're already using Notion. And again, like I said before, it depends on what website builder you're using. If you're using Webflow, if you're using Wix, if you're using Squarespace, you can do something very similar. Just the exact steps will be slightly different because they all embed slightly differently, but you can do exactly the same thing.